Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an impromptu Halloweenish, emphasis on ish, episode of the Brace Your Eyes, Dawn Has Arrived. And joining me is usually the one who shows up the most on this show, probably because we're the only ones up at this ungodly time, aka daylight. Win the Rogue.
Hello.
Hi. So, how? Without going into too much detail, how have you been doing lately, Win?
Not too bad. More or less just kind of working, doing some doodles here and there. Nothing too much of interest.
Yes. And speaking of interest, hold on. I have a phone in the front door I forgot to close. So yeah, typical Raff and Shoma production values right here. So
Don't touch that dial, folks.
yes, okay, I'll be right. So without going into too much detail, I don't want to talk to you. Okay, sorry about that. Not you. I'm talking to the phone and also me on the stream. I'll be back. I don't want to buy new things. Okay, nobody important. Hey, girl. Okay. All right, I'm coming back. There's always something you forget at the last minute, so.
Such is life.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, how the so-called spooky month, which is I guess is the new official term everyone online uses because I'm an old man, I don't know what the kids are into. Yeah, so spooky month is almost over, and didn't have enough time to do a lot of streaming or anything of that nature. But that's more than okay because we'll make up for it somehow, somewhere. I've been doing a lot of stuff on Twitch. In fact, recently me and Brayton, we did a live watch of The Body Snatcher from 1945, which is sort of a Victorian horror drama, for lack of a better term, starring Boris Karloff in one of the few films where he's not dressed up as a gigantic hulking undead homunculus. So yeah, and that actually went out incredibly well. So it's funny. There's so many good, like, even knowing that cable channels itself has stopped showing monster movies, so much so that I think even TCM, that's like they only regulate all their horror programming to maybe once a day towards the end of the month, as opposed to like, little monster movie marathons once a week. But with that said, have you seen any good scary movies lately, Win? Or just monster movies in general?
Not too recently. I more or less haven't gotten around to it, and I've been mostly catching up on stuff that's been on my backlog.
Okay, well, now by backlog, what do you mean?
Like, there'll be shows that I've picked up, and then I realized, oh shit, I never finished these, and I'll go back to watching them. Or something will catch my attention that's been recommended to me, and I'll finally get around to looking at it. Like, I just got through the first 10 episodes of the anime The Dungeon Meshi, or Delicious in a Dungeon, for those who prefer the English title.
Mm-hmm.
Where a fantasy party delves this particular old dungeon to retrieve the main character's sister to bring her back to life after she had been eaten by a dragon. And to survive, they have to learn to cook a lot of the beasts they slay and kind of use the flora and fauna around him to make all these surprisingly tasty looking dishes. But it probably helps that their main cook is probably one of my favorite characters. He's a dwarf who goes by the name of Senshi. He's voiced by ProZD.
Who is Pro CD?
He is a YouTuber who's done a lot of on and off voice work for projects on there and for video games and recently anime. Like I said, he's currently done he's currently Senshi in a Dungeon Meshi,
Hmm.
and he's also done a lot of voice work in games like Genshin Impact and various other gacha games. And this one game I really like that Jesse Cox, another video game YouTuber, directed that I would recommend is Dumb Fun, especially given it's Halloween currently. It's called Monster Prom.
Mm. What?
It's kind of it's kind of like a spoof on a dating sim. Like you'll pick a character, you'll go through these wacky situations, and you have to kind of match up certain statuses with if you want to ask the monster character you caught your eye to the prom. Example, there's this party girl ghost by the name of Polygeist, and if you have your fun status up enough, you'll most likely either get like a special ending with her or at least the good ending where you get like a cute little prom picture of the character you've picked and Polly. Or I can't remember the other statuses, but my favorite go-tos were actually the Prince of Hell, Damien,
Hmm.
and this like himbo of a werewolf by the name of Scott. He's actually voiced by Aaron Hansen, aka Ego Raptor.
Hmm.
People will probably know him for his Game Grumps channel and doing some on and off voice work in games as well. Like he's one of the default voices you can pick in Monster Hunter Rise. Uh, he voices King's dad in the Owl House. I think he's done a couple of other things, but he was definitely a Newgrounds alumni.
Okay, so yeah, and this is not a video game. This is actually an American dubbed anime.
No, no. The Monster
Okay.
Prom is a game,
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry about my confusion there. So. Hmm.
and it's been pretty popular enough to get a sequel through Monster Camp
Hmm.
and Monster Road Trip, which is just pure dumb fun. The Monster franchise, I would definitely recommend. It's not too expensive. It's more or less a flash game. So even if you kind of have a what's now perceived potato of a computer, it would be able to run it without too much issue.
Okay. Okay. So yeah.
And
Again,
worst
I'm.
worst
Yeah.
case, there's always watching playthroughs on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm not much of a video game person at all. So yeah. I sorry about my confusion there. But yeah, monster people. Like, if only I knew a couple of years ago that would end up being a big thing in anime and light novels and whatnot. So of course I'm in America, so I doubt I'd be able to make a big splash or anything of that nature. So
I
why?
don't know. You've got a lot of Americans directing some animes these days on and off that seem to do well. Like a lot of people liked Edge Runners, the cyberpunk one, and
Mm-hmm.
we've got the upcoming Lord of the Rings anime movie coming to theaters in the holidays.
Oh yeah. So now, unless I'm mistaken, isn't that also streaming on HBO Max, or it is actually going straight to theaters?
I think it's doing theaters only. Don't quote me on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I don't have Max. I have Hulu and Disney Plus merged together only because it's more or less a lot cheaper than having one or the other,
Yeah. That sadly, I got
even with ads.
yes, I got Hulu during a what is it? A bundled deal, but not a bundle. No, no, no. I should take that back. I got HBO Max. Oh, darn it! Hold on, I'm getting my streaming services mixed up.
There's a crap ton of them. It's easy to do.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that reminds me. I gotta cancel my Discovery, my Discovery Channel Plus before the 11th, or I'm stuck with it. So not that they really have anything there, but just a quick shout out to Goji Shea. Hey, this is a nice little surprise. He says a few days ago I researched the first Critters movie. That's still a pretty fun watch. I meant to say rewatch, not research. That's okay. I've yet to see any of the Critters movies, so I've heard that at least the first two are very good, and then they kind of go downhill afterwards. But no, yeah, no, I got Hulu when it was very cheap. Like I think it was like $1 every 12 months. But now that Disney Plus has basically been a semi offshoot of Hulu, I'm thinking maybe it's just best to cut the cord with Hulu and just stick to Disney Plus. Like, granted, not everything Hulu has to offer will be on Disney Plus now. But do I really need to pay extra money for like horror movies I've never heard of before? Oh my goodness. So, but yeah, there is just way too much streaming. With that said, though, there's just way too much to watch for both better and ill. Because I was gonna say a little earlier, um, there are a lot of free streaming services that I use, and I don't mind that at all. In fact, tonight, just to let you know, I'm doing a Twitch stream on one. It's our typical 1% weird, and it's going to be Night of the Giant, really big demons. A double feature of The Gate and oh god, what is it? Oh, Curse of the Demon, which both movies are about demons being summoned from hell, and the demons in question are very, very, very big because that's the joke. And
Yes.
yes, and both movies are currently free on Tubi, so it's not a big deal streaming them. And Tubi is pretty good about having their commercials block if you use a VPN. So everything should go okay. When I don't know how late you want to stay up, or if you're up for seeing like scary Canadian family movie from the '80s. But yeah, if you're up for it, maybe you can come along or something. So
Yeah, if I don't get called into work and I'm not too tired, I'll try to see if I can pop in. Worst case, I'm definitely down for looking for more of these cheesy esque movies to stream in the near future.
oh yeah, yeah. Like what is it? I really wanted to do a double feature of Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust and Batman versus Dracula, but I couldn't find a good copy of the former. So yeah, maybe we'll save that for next time. Although I gotta admit, me and Goji Shea, we did a double feature of Frankenstein Conquers the World and a 1980s anime version of Frankenstein that was co-produced by the Marvel Entertainment. And oh my god, Win. I think you dodged a bullet as far as retro anime goes, because that was just a ridiculously depressing fare. It's like, not only does it, like, it's one of those like 80s anime films that were probably advertised for to families because of the Marvel connection and the fact that it's based on classical literature. And while it's nowhere near as bad as the original Vampire Hunter D and similar things in similar veins, like holy my goodness, it was so depressing that me and Goji Shea had to admit that we both felt really sorry for any parents and families who probably rented that from like ancient Blockbuster or Warehouse Video, and then they like took it home, and it's like, no, it doesn't end on a yeah, it's one of those films where you think characters who are going to survive at the end decide to commit suicide because they feel shameful, and it just comes out so far out of nowhere. It's like, the heck, man. Oh my goodness. So yeah, bad. Maybe we'll do bad anime night and throw that on the Barbie.
Funny you mentioned you couldn't find a copy of Vampire Hunter Deep Bloodlust. What if I told you I got curious, kind of typed in, and in your DM, voila.
Oh, okay. I will check. One moment. Just to
And
double
it's
check.
the English dub too,
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I
which
know. Go on.
it was really good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hold on. Let me make.
Someone posted it there like 2 months ago. I'm gonna keep that user anonymous so some troll does not decide to copyright strike them.
Mm-hmm. And I will save it on my Just for Watching When Shoma's Away playlist, which is just the basic miscellaneous playlist. Yeah, maybe we'll end up watching this in the near future because with the 1% weird streams, Halloween is every night. So it's like I don't feel too bad about missing a lot of opportunities watching Halloween stuff. And a big shout out to Cody Brash, long time no see. He says, "Good morning, Vietnam." So, how did you know my maiden name?
Also, speaking of, you know how we were trying to find the proper redub for Sailor Moon The Black Dream Hola when we watched the original dub because of the subtitle one kind of being wink wonk.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's back. All three movies are back on YouTube with the redub free with ads. So if it's still that way in December, we could do Hearts and Ice with Lydia slash Riff the Witch.
Oh, nice. I always wanted to see that one because the ice monster looks so fun in that one. So,
And you get a small mention of the fairy tale about Princess Kaguya.
oh yes, that's the princess who went to the moon, right? Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a clip, and it's like Bugs Bunny in a rocket ship screaming his head off.
Oh no.
There we go. That's some awesome anime right there.
Oh
Okay.
no.
Yes. I'm gonna read some comments. If you like Gremlin movies, chances are you like the Critters film. Similar sense of humor, says Goji Shay. And then Kaiju Commander has also joined us, and he says, "Yo, everyone, what did I miss? Not much. We just started a couple of minutes ago." Kaiju Commander says, "Yeah, that Frankenstein flick was a trip." Laughs out loud. And then Shay follows up saying, "Yeah, that anime was not fun. Only watch it if you want to be depressed." Laugh out loud. Kaiju Commander says, "Vampire D Bloodlust. Hell yes, good taste." So you got a compliment there. And then he talks to Goji Shay saying, "Or if you have a dark sense of humor, the Frankenstein movie is a go." So there's also Devilman Lady on Tubi for a good spooky anime show. Hope you've been doing well, Raph. Yes, I've been doing very well. I've just been doing a lot of streaming on Twitch and usually late at night. So yeah, the dawn has arrived. Brace your eyes. Dawn has arrived is sort of the alternative morning show. And like I said, Win is usually a very good co-host and guest because everyone else I know is asleep. So, but yeah, tonight on my Twitch stream, like I just to let you newcomers, we're gonna do a night called Night of the Really Big Demons, and it's a double feature of The Gate from 1987 and Curse of the Demon. I don't know if Brighton will be joining us. I know Lydia will be joining us for the first film at least. And you know what? When if things don't go too crazy and we're both free, maybe I'll start 1% Weird a little early, and we'll just watch some miscellaneous monster stuff. So.
Sounds good either way.
Yes, yes. But no, we got you here. And since it is the Halloween spooky ooky scary month, kind of wanted to pick your brains on just some basic monster archetypes. Because recently, God, I've been thinking a lot about goblins lately. That seems to be... Now, is it just me, or are we still in the middle of sort of goblin fever as far as fiction goes, or has that kind of died down a bit?
Mileage varies, like, obviously, and how they're painted is also mileage for me. For example, like, you got animes like Goblin Slayer, which kind of paints them as these, like, monstrous beasts that obviously show no mercy, to put it most discreet way possible, because god damn it, episode 1.
Yeah, I know a lot of people can handle their edgelord anime, but yeah, that first episode,
it's an okay anime otherwise if you can move past episode 1, but
yeah,
you also get some who kind of paint them in a more adorable light, like another one in the isekai title. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. The goblins, most of the goblin characters in that anime are absolute cinnamon rolls.
yeah. I've seen more episodes of that series than I've done of Goblin Slayer, and yeah, you're right. I don't know how much longer they last as side characters, but holy yeah, those are some of the most adorable little goblin friends ever. So especially the lead goblin, the one who doesn't really change much after he gets his name.
The name escapes me.
Yes. So, but yeah, no, apparently, yeah, no, somebody online, I think it's Curious Archive. He does a lot of videos about fictional monsters and creatures of that nature. He did a really good video called The Goblin Hypothesis, and I'll try to update the description link in the future with that link. as well as the discussion section we had about the body snatcher with Boris Karloff. But he brought up the point that the reason goblins are so endearing, even knowing that a lot of the fictional examples he used were kind of the less friendly versions of goblins, minus some exceptions. And he definitely did not touch the horrible subgenre of sexy goblins, which of course I have nothing, I have no knowledge in whatsoever. Joke.
Yeah, short stacks are kind of considered a thing, especially if you read a lot of the web comics done by Ball Buddy.
Oh my, that's new to me. Uh, but yeah, no, goblin girls are also a thing. But we're gonna try to keep this chat good.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
That's it's why I'm more or less conveying there's stuff that's safe for work, stuff
Mm-hmm.
that's not safe for work, and there's stuff that is in the middle.
Yes, and it's also the reason why I'm currently working on artwork of this mummy girl right here, because she looks fairly normal, minus the undead scariness, and also just because it's one of those pictures that I'm just going to color the OG inks itself, so it's a little easier and it'll kind of look cool at the end, I hope. So, but there's still some cleanup that needs to be done. But yeah, no. He brought up the point that goblins, despite their kind of very iffy and disgusting attitudes, and while he used mostly like kind of less positive portrayals of goblins, ignoring a lot of the anime ones, he went more for like fantasy films and video game versions. He says that probably the reason goblins have such an interest for him, at least, is that they are sort of the fantasy world's endearing losers. And while that is kind of true, and perhaps even equally sadder, especially considering how some fantasy stories treat goblins, it's like, I know Goblin Slayer, it's trying to comment on sort of like edgelord D&D sessions, especially when you get into like the weird minutia about the four gods who rule the world. It's like you also have, there's also, I think, even more sadder betrayals of goblins where they're just kind of used as either just pure cannon fodder or just like, oh god, Planet of the Hat style one-dimensional creatures, like the way the Harry Potter movies treated goblins.
Yeah, let's not go into that one because Harry Potter goblins are kind of painted as problematic.
Yeah, and that's another thing though. That's something I think I should address right now. That goblins are horrible landlords, and no, I'm just joking. That's a terrible joke. No. The thing is that a lot of like mythology is never constant, and a lot of the fantasy creatures we create today have never always had a solidified backstory or purpose behind them. In fact, goblin, fairy, elf, trolls, for the longest time, those terminologies were just kind of interchangeable, just for magical woodland creature. So much so, unlike today, where we try to put those creatures in different categories. Like, granted, there is exceptions to that rule as well. But yeah, mythology's never been constant. I don't think there really has been much in the way of goblin mythology, other than a couple of fairy tales. Because it's like I think I remember reading once that goblin, in its truest original form, was just a word for unpleasant or unattractive elf or fairy, meaning that goblins really aren't much different from, elves and fairies and whatnot. Of course, that changed around the 20th century with, of course, Tolkien with his books, but even he admits that he had no idea what the heck he was doing with the whole goblin thing. Um, so much so I think he forgot goblins existed and just started calling them orcs, his own little fantasy race. Kind of inspired by the whole goblin thing. But yeah, goblins have really blown up in recent years, especially considering the number of video games, anime, and just fantasy in general. And it's like I don't like the idea of just easily putting a fictional species as just completely one dimensional. Which is something I kind of have a problem with a lot of other modern day mainstream science fiction and fantasy. But when you get a chance, you can kind of see the more endearing side of goblins. And Curious Archive himself, he brought up a really good point that outside of being endearing losers, goblins also kind of represent the more, not nastier side, but the more mucky side of nature. It's like if elves represent the kind of beautiful sunlit woodlands that they live in, then goblins are definitely the kind of swampy mushroom dwellers that you'll find in like more icky times. And yet they probably hold a place in that, they probably have a value in that regard as well, if I'm making any sense.
You are.
Okay. And with that said, I'm going to read some quick comments here. Do do do. Oh, Cody Batch, yeah, I mean, I'm doing pretty well. I already answered that. Goji says Yuku Hashigo, I say, is probably my favorite supernatural themed anime series. Cody Batch says, losers sleep in the morning away. What's wrong with them? That's right. I've only gotten 4 hours of sleep. So, um, Goji says, has anyone seen Biohunters? That's an old supernatural anime theme. A friend of mine really likes that. He says it's really good. I'm aware of it. I've never seen it, although I know it's one of those like early 90s, late 80s anime that really goes hard on the gore. Not as extreme as some of the series directed by the same people, like Wicked City and Cat's Eye, but something similar in that regard. Um, Kaiju Commander says you could restart tonight's stream a little early if you're worried about hosts not attending. And, that is true, but yeah, we'll see what happens because I still have projects I need to finish. So yeah, we'll see. And plus, we can always like reschedule Win for another night. Let's like we were talking a little while before you came in. We're thinking maybe doing Vampire Hunter D sometime in the future. So, Kaiju Commander says I haven't seen Biohunters in years. I remember enjoying it as a gory monster anime back in the day. Oh, and Goji Shay has a question for you, Win, if you're willing. Are goblins a fun race to play in D&D?
Yes, yes, and their fury of the small is very, very handy.
Okay, Fury of the Small. I'm guessing that's sort of like the goblin equivalent of a group, a mob attack or something.
Actually, it's when you damage a creature with an attack or a spell in the creature's size. You can cause the attack or spell to deal additional damage.
Okay, so all right. So yeah, no, I've been thinking about goblins too, and it's like in my fantasy works, the Nera series that I've unfortunately yet to publish. Ugh. Yeah, I always figured goblins were, well. First off, they look a little like much more friendlier, huggable versions of the gremlins because that's always a very endearing design to me. The Gremlins, of course, from the Joe Dante live action movies. Gremlins 2 being a personal favorite of mine. And even though those films are named after gremlins, they are sort of adjacent or honorary goblin cinema, which is something that Curious Archive himself definitely puts in his books. Although, of course, there's also that funny theory to think that gremlins are just misidentified goblins who, during World War II, decided to do their own guerrilla warfare against flying airplanes. Usually the Germans, but being goblins, they couldn't always tell the difference. So, but that's just my little fun little theory. Um, but yeah, no, in the nearest series, the way I portray goblins is that they are a funny little. They are to elves or what chimpanzees or monkeys are to elves. Oh wait, they are to elves or what chimpanzees and monkeys are to humans. They are, of course, much more intelligent, but they are these little short, hyperactive creatures. Although goblins, they're not really bad. They are capable of great loyalty. They can be very good friends in that regard. In fact, there's sort of a recurring gag that a lot of goblin men will usually take human women as wives because, both species don't really do. It's a welcome alternative to like say relationships with bad people on the human side, so to speak. And but goblins are also, because they are a little hyperactive and not the most brightest bulbs in the bunch, whether they mean to or not. They kind of get a little chaotic, whether they mean to or not. So they are played a little bit for laughs. But I've been thinking about recently maybe even of doing like a one-shot story about a heroic goblin from Nero's past. The working title is The Ballad of Buckethead Billy, who was a goblin who was so desperate to save his human friend that he basically made some armor out of an iron bucket his friend used to use to carry water. And he ends up becoming sort of a heroic goblin in his own right and accidentally starts the Great Goblin Rebellions when many goblins during the Middle Ages of Nera decide that they're not going to be treated unfairly by all the evil dark lords or something that ruled during the time, so they basically rebelled and throw their hats in with humanity and fight back. So, but yeah, that's just my take on goblins. So any oh my goodness, any other further thoughts? I don't know if you shared your thoughts or if you can win, but what's your thoughts on the whole goblin thing?
It's kind of fun to see where things go. It's like you could go the stereotypical route of making them these kind of merciless creatures. Though Tolkien was pretty creative with his take on goblins. Orcs were kind of a fantasy creature of their own for a while, so we
Mm-hmm.
can delve into orcs another time. But a connection to orcs and goblins, I will say, is in the world of sci-fi actually, called a little something called Warhammer 40K, because the origin of the orcs in that is that they're more of a kind of a fungal creature that run on the sheer power of belief. If they believe they're invincible, then in their eyes they are indeed invincible. Particular colors represent like the best of the best. Like use the fastest if you're red, use the richest if you're from the yellow clan. And relevant to bringing up orcs in this case is that there are goblinoid creatures that are kind of connected with orcs called the Grot. They're
Oh, that,
insane little mofos.
yes. Are they like diminutive, diminutive psycho versions of regular orcs?
Kind of. They look like goblins with kind of cybernetic enhancements.
Okay, neat. So now I was surprised. I thought the Warhammer universe, the orcs, from what little I knew, they were just kind of imported from the Warhammer is a futuristic one, right?
War There's two variants. There's Warhammer Fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the more popular 40K. And they were kind of given that sci-fi twist. Like hell, there's even a variant of space pirates with different clan exiles that are part of them, known as the Freebooters. I'm still learning. I'm still learning a bit of the lore myself. I'd love to try to play the war game someday. Uh, Maybe when I'm not trying to save funds. But learning the lore in the meantime is really fascinating, especially since orcs were kind of what caught my attention. Then the grots, and the race the orcs dub as quote unquote fish boys, aka the Tau, which they're interesting. I'm still learning a bit about their lore,
Mm-hmm.
along with the space equivalent of elves that they dub as scrawnies, called the Eldar. And then there's cannibalistic bird people known as the Kroots. They're mercenaries, but they share a deep rivalry with the orcs. And for being mercenaries, if there's any faction they will be loyal to, it would be the Tau.
Oh, the fish people.
Yes, you fish boys.
Yes. Okay.
Or as some people like to endearingly call them, space blueberries,
Right.
because they're blue skinned.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No. Like I said, I almost know nothing of the whole Warhammer or 40K or even the regular fantasy Warhammer. Although I know the fantasy version has definitely taken off in the last couple of years. So and with that said though, yeah, you're right. There are different versions of goblins in mythology. With that said though, I'm not too. Well, what's the big difference, at least as far as you know, even if we have to go D&D route, between a goblin and a hobgoblin? Isn't a hobgoblin just like a slightly bigger version or slightly stronger version of a regular goblin? Or
Kinda yeah, kinda no. It's its own thing. It counts as a goblinoid. In D&D, they're rather tall. They kind of have an intimidating presence. They have red skin and black hair,
mm-hmm.
sometimes blue noses.
Mm.
But they're really, really fun. And hobgoblins in Pathfinder mileage may vary. And while on the subject of Pathfinder, I think they're probably one of my favorite adaptations of goblins. Because, yes, they're still the tiny little green skins, but they're also very bright, they're curious, they're fun, they're innovative, and have a major passion for tinkering.
Okay. Yeah, so okay, so what's the tinkering? Just regular mechanics and whatnot, as opposed to like dwarves being master blacksmiths.
Yeah, kind of like fantasy, machinery, alchemy, all that fun stuff.
Okay, nice. Okay, but yeah, as far as the goblin thing goes, yeah, goblins. um, that's a fun name, says Goji Shay, Buckethead Billy. Oh yes, the goblin hero. Yeah, I don't know if I have artwork of the character to share, but yeah, that might be a future posting on my DeviantArt. And then Shay follows up saying the fish people sound like citizens of Izamoth from the Cthulhu mythos. Yeah, the way you put it though, they sound a lot more friendlier than the deep ones from the Cthulhu lore. And Kaiju Commander says, mythologically speaking, I've heard hobgoblins are supposed to be friendlier than other goblins, but in modern fiction, they're usually depicted as being bigger, badder versions of regular goblins. So,
Yeah, like I said, lore varies from storyteller to storyteller.
mm-hmm, nice. So now, oh my god, where do we go from here? It is Halloween, so getting off. Well, goblins are some used to be a part of Halloween lore. I remember growing up as a kid, there'd be a lot of Halloween books. I'd be like, ghouls and goblins come out and play. Now it's like I think goblins have kind of been replaced by other sort of fantasy monsters. Like I'm surprised aliens have become so big in Halloween decorations lately, or at least Halloween lore. It's like now you have like like there was a time growing up where it's like, oh, it's Halloween. You're not supposed to have science fiction stuff. Stop it, Raph. But I want sci-fi. And now it's like there's like a lot of these like fun lawn decorations of like aliens abducting cows in balloon form or something. So, but with that says, when if you don't mind talking about who's your favorite kind of Halloween staples of monsterdom, werewolves, vampires, Frankenstein's, witches, ghosts.
There's a lot of fantasy creatures that could fit into it that I can't necessarily pick a favorite,
Mm-hmm.
but of course, I like vampires. I like anything amongst the lycanthropy mythos,
Mm-hmm.
aka werewolves and other rare creatures.
Right.
Let's see. There's various types of fae that would work amongst the horror genre if people do vast studies involving the fae.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say if you want to go like the Celtic route, there's also the Banshee. She's more or less a ghost, but still kind of like a ghost meets fae is really awesome. And then
Okay.
there's in Irish mythos once more, there's the Dullahan, which is the headless rider.
Oh yeah, and that character got really popular, weirdly enough, through anime. There was one series that had a Dolehan as like one of the lead characters, a motorcycle girl.
Oh yeah, Durara. I,
Durara. Yeah, it's weird how that
I
that
believe her
anime.
name.
Go on,
I believe her name was Kelty.
Kelty. Yeah, so no, it was surprising how that anime was for a time very popular and it kind of put Dolehans back on the map, especially in Japanese fiction. So
Yeah, so technically, if you want to have to put the Headless Horseman in a particular box, I guess you could arguably say he's Dullahan, even though technically in most mythos, a lot of Dullahan are actually women.
that is, I did not know. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, in fiction because I know originally they were usually just male in the original mythologies.
Yeah, but in a lot of fiction, a lot of Dullahan are women.
Yes, yes, like Monster Moose and May, or yeah, any one of those. um, the funny thing, yeah, the Banshee is interesting because yeah, in most American fiction, that character is portrayed as sort of an evil ghost or a spirit, whereas in the original Celtic mythology, it's just a very like that's what I love about Celtic mythology. It's like yeah, technically these are all just different variations of fairies or part of the larger fairy family. It's sort of like how yokai in Japanese mythology are all separate creatures, but they're still put under the umbrella term of yokai because they're all wacky, supernatural, ghostly creatures. But no, I think Celtic mythology is very unique in that regard, especially with monsters like the Necla. I hope I'm saying the name right. The Neclavi, the big, scary, skinless horse-human hybrid thing. So
Yes.
yes, but yeah. Oh god. So the dual. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, is it okay if I met? Why vampires? Why do you have a What is the appeal of vampires? Because that's one species I really can't wrap my head around. Probably for personal reasons. I got attacked by a vampire back in '73.
I don't know, there's just something that has always fascinated with me with being able to be impervious to all but maybe three things: the aspect of never aging, almost never dying unless you're hit by one of those three anathemas.
Mm-hmm. And that, of course, being light, silver, and wooden stake or holy water. What can we trade out?
I'd probably say holy water because the stake more or less just paralyzed the vampire rather than killed it.
Mm-hmm. Hence why a lot of fiction, it's like you just pull out the stake and boom, the vampire's okay.
Yeah, and any of the ones that make them go to dust, you can theorize that they were doused in holy water.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, so just to kind of give you a break, I'm gonna, and also, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, if you wish to share your kind of favorite monster archetypes, Halloween or otherwise, please do. I will be more than happy to read them. Kaiju Commander does have a question though. How do you feel about tall goblins? Elves are traditionally short, but Tolkien and other modern fantasy made it popular for them to be taller, but that's rarely the case with goblins. It's that is a good question because even more so than elves used to be portrayed, goblins are almost always diminutive. And I know that the time I got reincarnated as a slime, they do a good job with having goblins kind of have a good middle ground of being nearly human sized but not overly short or overly tall. And I think that even before they were all given their names and turned into more human like goblins and orc like creatures.
Yeah, I'm not really opposed to it, and if anything, in 5e, there's the variant of goblinoid that I know that would probably describe a slightly taller goblin would be the Verdin, which is a goblin variant.
Okay, where did the Verdin originate? I've never heard of them.
I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it's definitely on the list of many goblinoid variants, and I've seen artwork of the Verdin, and they look pretty cool.
Okay, so yeah,
And
go on.
funny enough, there is one more goblin variant that you would think would fit more along the line of a beast man. There's these fuzzy, kind of super tall goblinoid creatures. They're called bugbears.
Yeah, what is a bugbear? I keep hearing that word constantly. It's like the only bugbear I'm familiar with is like the creepy, multi-eyed, shadowy creature from oh god, I'm probably gonna say the name horribly. Gege Kataro or Kataro, the anime series where I know they have a bugbear who's sort of a major villain in that regard. But yes, please, please educate me.
They're kind of a fuzzy, tall, muscular thing. Like I did with the Tau, I DM'd you a picture of the bugbear.
Okay. Oh yeah, you sent it through. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, and I also see the blue people too. I can
Yeah,
the
that's a Tau.
yes, and yeah, here I see the bugbear being portrayed as a huge, huge, huge hairy guy. So
Yeah, yeah, he's considered of a goblinoid variant.
mm-hmm.
And just one more fun fact about the Tau, even though it's unrelated to goblins, they pilot they pilot these mechs that kind of look a bit like Gundams. So anyone who gets into 40K and they're a Gundam fanatic, I'll direct you to the Tau.
Yes, giant robots. They make everything better. So That's a whole conversation in its own right. I'm thinking of honestly doing a one-shot podcast where I just talk about why I think robots are like the greatest fictional anything ever. So real world stuff less so, but actually no, the whole AI thing is ridiculous. So there's a big difference between AI as we think it is in science fiction and scientific theory, and AI as it actually being used today, which is just a fancy pop word for machine learning. And yeah, it's not as impressive as it's supposed to sound. But yeah, goblin types. So, and here I was thinking they were just fun little guys. Oh my goodness. So, that's a I was gonna ask a really stupid question because I know in Curious Archives video he asks two questions. The first one is, if goblins were real, could you realistically take one in a fight? And then the second question is, could goblins be good friends? So considering how dangerous little animals can be, I don't want to say I'd be very good at taking on a goblin in a fight, especially if that little animal has the ability to hold a knife or a sword or a net. And if they're working in a large group too, I think old Raph would be taken to the goblin zoo. It's like, check it out. We got the guy who created Jack Oxen. Throw stuff at him. No. And we'll give you peanuts every day, Raph. And then just the goblins start like pelting me with like floods of peanuts. Ah, why? So sorry, that's stupid. But yeah, maybe against one goblin I might have a chance to fight it. If realistically a goblin just showed up in the middle of nowhere and challenged you to a fight, how do you think that would go?
Uh, as long as I have something to improvise with, it might go okay.
Okay. It's like, oh, it's a good thing Win was shopping at the iron oh darn it, the iron fence store today. So yeah, and the second question is, would goblins be good friends? It's like I don't. It's like, first off, I don't want to, like, if these so-called fictional creatures were ever real or even are real, just as a bit of a thought experiment. Yeah, it's like I don't want to think they're as two-dimensional as people say they are. It's like real animals in nature, like under the right conditions, you can actually befriend and have a somewhat decent relationship with otherwise wild animals. Yes, wild animals are still wild animals, and one should be wary. But it's like, yeah, not every hyena, especially ones raised in captivity, are as horrible as they're portrayed in fiction, or as scary as they are in the actual savannah. And not every elephant is a gentle giant for various reasons. But yeah, if goblins were real, I don't know. That would be interesting. It would probably. I think they would be easy roommates to have along because they're so small and whatnot. But there you go. So, and it's like, I know that the idea of like benevolent goblins are becoming more popular these days, and hopefully we'll see more of it. Like I said, I want to definitely do more benevolent goblins in my fantasy works over bad goblins. Although I should also maybe throw in one or two goblin villains in there just to kind of, for variety's sake. So, would you be friends with a goblin?
Imagine all the chaos I could cause.
Oh no, Win and the goblin are stealing fencing from the aluminum siding store.
But yeah, I was actually thinking of making a goblin character for a future Pathfinder campaign, should it ever come to pass. I decided to try out the Twisting Tree Magus class, which lets you cast kind of primal spells, but still bitch slap people with your staff, like a bow staff.
Mm-hmm.
And she would be a Twisting Tree Magus mammoth lord, since it would let me ride on the back of giant beasts goblin. Her name is Oz,
Hmm.
and her steed slash pet is a triceratops named Pickle.
I want to draw that.
She's a wild child, talks in first person. Us like Pickle, both the crunchy cucumbers and dinosaur.
Hey,
Pickle is Oz's best friend.
she loves her giant triceratops so much she named her after her favorite food.
Exactly.
Okay. I love, like, I don't know why, but I love the idea that goblins have there's this humor behind goblins, that they're just so easy to please, and they're just so simplistically fun. It's like give them a bucket of mud and they'll be happy for hours. So, although I do think that again, I think that's very endearing, cute what you just did. So, okay,
Yeah, the idea came from an artwork I saw, but I'm probably going to redesign and make a goblin of my very own. It was a goblin holding a pickle jar, so I figured I'd do a complete design of my own, completely from scratch, my own design from my own head,
nice.
and continue to go with that concept. Especially since another inspiration made me think of kappas and how they love cucumbers.
Oh yeah, so yeah, cute. Yeah, that's it's funny. Kappas and goblins. Like I know that in some animes they've kind of incorrectly called yokai creatures goblins. That's like calling a dragon a unicorn. It's not exactly the same thing at the very least. But yeah, no. Now that you mention it, kappas and goblins do share a lot in common because it's like there are versions of kappas that are just sweethearts, and then there's versions of kappas that are just nightmare fuel. So, and that's probably
Yeah,
that's probably the same with
go
the
with the
original.
one.
Huh?
Yeah, go with the. I was gonna say yeah, go for the ones that like the cucumbers, not the ones that want to suck souls out of your butt.
Indeed. It's funny. There's a movie called Death Kappa from 2008, I think, or 2010, and it was an independently made kaiju movie. It was played more for laughs, complete with like weird humor. Though thankfully it doesn't get as offensive as like other Japanese gonzo comedies of the era. But it's a shame too because even knowing that movie does have a lot of major problems, I know it disappointed so many kaiju fans at the day that it's often considered one of the worst kaiju movies ever made, which I think that's a little hyperbolic. I personally think the main Kappa himself, just simply known as Kappa-kun, is a great character, and I wouldn't mind seeing that creature come back in another form because he is very endearing, very heroic, and his design is he's plump, but he feels like a short sumo wrestler, but in a good way. So yeah, I got nothing against Kapu-kun. It's the rest of the movie that's sort of an issue. So okay, so let's read some comments. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so we're going. Let me go. Okay, Kaiju Commander says outside of Marvel comics and Labyrinth, of course, beware the Goblin King, or he'll toss you into the bog of eternal stench. Laugh out loud. Um, God, that's a good question. I wish Brayton was here since he's a David Bowie fanatic. But it's like, yeah, was the Goblin King just a human that looks like a goblin, sort of like an elf or something in that regard, or was he supposed to be human? He's just one who kind of been raised around goblins.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay. We'll find out eventually. Stay tuned. um. Cody Batch says I've been enjoying you guys talking. It's fun and intriguing to listen to. Favorite monster archetype? He follows up saying pretty obvious with me. Bias kaiju fan is bias. Laugh out loud. Goji Shay says werewolves are probably my favorite monster archetype. And then Kaiju Commander says favorite monster archetype: kaiju and dragons, fire breathing giant beasties for the win. Indeed. Oh god, after watching Attack of the Super Monsters, is there some do you have in the back of your mind tempted to give Pickles fire breathing abilities?
You're giving me ideas,
Okay.
and you'll have to question if that's a good thing or not.
Yeah. It's Attack of the Super Monsters. I would say it mostly bad. So we had fun watching that, I will admit it. So um okay, so Goji Shay says although the thing from the John Carpenter movie oh, hold on. Got to readjust my microphone. Although the thing from the John Carpenter movie I'll give a shout out to as well. I would truly be frightening if that was real. Indeed. And he says, "Oh yes, the thing is Kaiju Commander follows up. Oh yes, the thing is a nasty piece of work between the shapeshifting and simulation abilities, and a knowledge that even though it's sentient and knows you are sentient, it still only sees you as food." Okay, and then Goji says, "Exactly," and replies. Kaiju Commander says, I'm not against benevolent monsters. I just don't like it when people take it to the extreme and make them so you can't have evil for evil's sake style monsters in your fictional storytelling. That is true. It's like there's always a bad batch there's always a bad egg in the batch, or there's a good exception in the batch. Forgive me. Just gotta yawn a little bit. Okay. Goji Shea has a question for you. Win, I don't know how familiar you are with Critical Role, but Sam Riegel's goblin character before she became a halfling from the second
Yes, not the
campaign.
brave.
Is that would be a goblin I'd hang out with. So,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, the shenanigans that you could get in with. Not, I loved her. She's probably one of my favorite characters in the Mighty Nine campaign, aside from Ford and Yasha.
Okay. I'm looking at images. Okay, I've seen Not before. It's like with the little bandage faces. So now, when he says a halfling, does that mean she's like half human, half goblin, or did they just change her species completely to a hobbit type?
Uh, yeah, halflings are kind of hobbit-esque, except a bit more leaner.
Mm-hmm.
And Veth, or not real name Veth, apologies for anyone who's heard any spoilers and hasn't seen this campaign yet, even though it ended a few years ago. Uh, Hold on.
Okay, that's okay. I can keep talking while you're away. So yeah, yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Despite the fact that we are up in the morning, we have other things to worry about too. So forgive us for
Okay,
little.
there we go.
Okay.
There was a bit of life background banter, and I didn't want it to get jumbled.
Yes, that's okay.
Uh, but yeah, uh, Not started out as goblin, and it turns out she was a cursed halfling named Veth. And during part of the campaign, she gets to go back to being Beth.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a bit of a cop out though, or do you think it's an okay development for her?
I think it's an okay development because with D&D, you kind of tell your own story, and at the same time, sometimes the dice will help push things along.
Okay, so the dice is to blame.
Yeah, it's like roll a persuasion check at
Mm-hmm.
advantage or disadvantage. Because there's
Yes.
checks, there's saving throws, there's attack rolls. So it's a mix of collaborated storytelling, the DM kind of following their campaign story plot while giving the characters their own autonomy, but at the same time, adding some things here and there because of the fate of the dice.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, can you imagine? Is that how a lot of characters permanently die because of the dice, or it never gets that simplistic?
If they fail all three death saving throws, they could perma die.
Mm.
But if you have a party cleric in your party and they have the components like a diamond, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that's worth a certain amount of gold, they can use that as a casting component and use Revivify. But there's also penalties for being brought back. Like you'll have a few levels of exhaustion, and your saving throws will be at disadvantage for a bit because of the exhaustion points. And if a druid uses reincarnate on you, like if your body's completely gone, but there's still something left that was your possession, they could use that as a means along with their special oils to bring you back with reincarnation. But you would come back as a race that's kind of rolled on the dice sheet. Like, say you were a dwarven fighter, you were incinerated by a dragon, but your sword was intact. The druid could technically use that as a means to cast reincarnate, but chances are, rather than coming back as dwarf, you would probably come back on something like a tiefling, an Asmar, or if the DM was feeling especially spicy and gremlin-y with some of the rolls, a turtle, which is a giant turtle race.
Hmm. How is that a bad thing? Get big Gamera. Huzzah.
Yeah, like in one campaign with my main group, I used reincarnate to bring back a dear friend of mine's character. And the character in question came back as a sea elf.
I didn't even know sea elves were a thing. Was it just elves with aquatic elements, or is it like? swimming
Eh,
mermaid version of an elf.
elves with aquatic elements, because there's different subraces to elves in D&D. There's the Mark of Shadow elves, there's wood elves, there's high elves. There's technically the drow slash dark elves,
Mm-hmm.
they have their own stat block, as do the Shadar-kai, which are more a variant of elf who are connected with death and its patron, known as the Raven Queen.
Mm.
Well, one of many death patrons, but the Raven Queen is one the Shadar-kai are often tied to. One of the other death gods is actually an old school god that some people use, some people don't in the games, by the name of Merkel.
Merkel, I've heard that before. So,
Yeah, Merkel is a death god.
okay. So, because, yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard, you know, it's funny. I'm not a D&D guy at all, but I've heard enough of these characters that it kind of shows that, yeah, D&D is kind of not getting to the mainstream, but yeah, some of the cultural emosis is hard to avoid. So, okay. Now,
Yeah,
yes.
and if you wanted to go like for those gods, if you wanted to kind of go the whole holy route and find something down the middle, if you had like a religious friend joining that's curious but also doesn't want to feel like they're worshiping anything evil,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say the closest route to anything of that sort would probably going the route of being loyal to Lathander, the also known as the Morning Lord and the god of life and creation.
Okay, which I guess is the D&D equivalent of the Christian god.
Yeah, so if you want to make them comfy and meet them in the middle, recommend them Lathander.
Yes. So that or it's fictional. It's a fictional game. Just enjoy it, silly.
Or you can homebrew and add actual gods.
Oh yeah, that
Like
is
if Yeah, like if you like the Greek pantheon, you could homebrew and do a lot of stuff with the Greek pantheon.
right. Do they keep the Greek? Just a quick question: do they keep the Greek pantheon as themselves, or do they rename them?
I would probably mileage varies, depends on who's homebrewing.
Okay.
And Pathfinder, there's a lot of with Pathfinder, there's a lot of existing gods in along with their own made up ones mixed in. Like for one that is already existence in mythos, there's Tsukiyomi. Amongst the list, there's Shizuru,
Mm-hmm.
which are Japanese gods and goddesses.
Mm.
There's the Daimao.
Dino. I don't know why I got confused there. Okay.
Uh, but yeah, that but fantasy pantheon is another discussion for another time. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
will veer us back.
Okay, and I will veer us back by reading some more questions. Cody Batch question: many gush over John Carpenter's The Thing, and rightfully so. But what's your take, Raph and or slash Win, on the '50s movie that's technically remaking The Thing from Another World? Oh, have you ever seen either the 1950s Thing from Another World or the '80s Thing, The Thing?
Uh, no, I might have to take a peek.
Okay, yeah. So I know that. Okay, I like both movies equally, Cody Batch, and this I'm going to be kind of going on a rant here a bit. So if you want to go get a sandwich or a drink, when this now's the time to do it.
I'll go grab a couple of swigs of my Red Bull.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I am a fan of both movies very much so, and I think one like they, God, how can I say this? The '80s, The Thing is the superior movie, just because it builds up beautiful dread and has just some amazing creature and horror effects. But unfortunately, I think because of that, a lot of people have kind of ignored the 1950s version of the movie. And in the 80s, there was sort of a small subgenre of filmmakers taking classic monsters from either the 40s or the 50s and making really, I don't want to say messed up, but slightly scarier, more gory versions of said characters. Perhaps the most famous of these was John, oh God, what's his name? Oh, David Cronenberg's and Jeff Goldblum's take on The Fly. But the thing about those movies and the remakes, that unlike a lot of the horror remakes of today that kind of throws everything out with the bathwater as far as referencing the original or at least keeping the spirit of the original, I think the 80s movies kind of caught a good middle ground between honoring the original for what it was, but also going its own route. With that says, yeah, there is a much bigger difference between the Fly of old and the Fly of new as far as the Thing movies are concerned. And yeah, the thing from the 1980s John Carpenter Thing is definitely a much more well constructed, scarier movie, but some of the effects do get a little ridiculous, especially if you like doggies and you don't want to see anything horrible happen to dogs. And I know that opening that first transformation sequence in the at the end of the first act is very harrowing for a lot of people. But getting back to the 1950s, The Thing from Another World, first off, some context. Both movies are based on a short novel called simply The Thing, or The Thing from Another World. I don't know what the original, but it's basically the story is a bunch of scientists in the Antarctic discovers a crashed UFO beneath the ice and are able to retrieve only the what they believe to be the corpse of an alien pilot, only to have the pilot turned out to be a monstrous shapeshifter who can absorb and devour any the people that it's intimidating. Or no, not intimidating. Any monster would be intimidating. Impersonating. And the original short story is okay, but I think it's very clunky in its own right. And also, if you thought J.K. Rowling's was an issue, I know the original author of The Thing is, he makes H.P. Lovecraft look like Mary Sunshine by comparison. With that said, though, the first they made a movie based on the short story in 1951, and The Thing from Another World is like it's very similar to like Bela Lugosi's Dracula or even the original 1954 Godzilla in the sense that they were the first movie in a subgenre that would go on to be feature more elaborate, more sophisticated entries. And The Thing from Another World was the first true science fiction horror movie. There were plenty of horror movies before throughout the 30s and the 40s that had science fiction elements in it. You know, of course, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein had mad scientists bringing the dead back to life through scientific methods. But with The Thing from Another World, that was the first time we had an honestly good alien horror. And a quick shout out to Goji Shea for saying, I think the original short story was called Who Goes There? Yes, you're correct. Thank you. So yeah, The Thing from Another World was the first true science fiction alien invasion horror story. And it's a similar tale. A bunch of scientists up in the Antarctic discover a downed UFO beneath the ice, but they are only able to retrieve supposedly the only evidence of a pilot. Now, unlike the terrifying shape-shifting, absorbing creature, and I don't know if this was done for budgetary reasons or they wanted to go down their own route, but the alien in the 1950s 51 movie is basically a giant. On the surface, he looks like a big hulking Frankenstein type of humanoid in a spacesuit, and he's the vanguard for an alien invasion. But what I love about their take on The Thing is that despite his human-like appearance and big hulking Frankenstein lumbering form, he is still a very scary villain in his own right, especially since they go out of their way, mostly through dialogue, but you do have a couple of creepy special effects sequences here and there, suggesting that despite the fact that he looks human, he is anything but. He's basically came from a planet where vegetables were the dominant life form, plants, if you will, and they ended up evolving in such a way that they took on a humanoid appearance. So it's like, whereas the thing of Who Goes There and of the John Carpenter 80s movie, its big threat that if it gets out in the world, it can assimilate and absorb and merge with thousands, if not millions of people, like a really horrific virus. But The Thing from Another World, the 1950s version, its big threat is because it's a plant-based creature that lives off blood and needs heat, that if it leaves the Antarctic, it can easily grow entire armies of itself under the right conditions. So meaning that it can easily take over the world just from one seedling, so to speak. And that's kind of beautifully portrayed with a scene where the Thing loses an arm during a fight with a couple of Arctic dogs, sleigh dogs. And then, of course, the arm reactivates inside the house under the heat. And then there's another scene where the scientists attempt to grow little seedlings from from seeds found within the severed arm. And it's a weird thing because you have these like little plant plobs just kind of breathing back and forth, and it's like the doctor even puts a little stethoscope. I think that's what they're called. The thing you use to listen to a person's heartbeat, and the fact that they're
Stethoscope.
stethoscope. Thank you, Win. That's why you're. That's why you're. That's why you're. That's why you're here. You're the smart one. Yeah, they use a stethoscope on these little breathing plant pods, and they're just kind of freaked out. It's like hearing like they say, it's like hearing the heartbeats of a newborn baby. So yeah, they make the thing pretty terrifying in its own right. And of course, it's ironic that they basically, spoilers, towards the end of the movie, they have to electrocute the creature to destroy it. And yes, as Kaiju Commander says, it's better just to call the plant monster rather than a super carrot. Yeah, they refer to him as the Carrot Man throughout the movie, which is funny. But because it is like the first science fiction horror movie in cinematic history, so more or less, or alien invasion movie, it does have a bit of a crudeness to it. It's not like other alien invasion movies that would come, like War of the Worlds or Earth versus the Flying Saucer, that would really get into like full-on spectacle with the science fiction elements. But the thing, and sorry about if I'm not doing the artwork right now, I'm just kind of in my little thing rant. But yeah, no, the first movie is really good. I do appreciate that it has a kind of it was a movie produced by oh god, Howard Hughes, I think his name was, or no, not Howard Hughes. Oh god, okay, hold on, I gotta check out the thing. But it is one of those early movies that has a lot. It's a movie that's transitioning from the 40s cinema, so there's a lot of like catchy dialogue and characters kind of over talking each other, but it's done in a much more beautiful way than say other movies, like sort of like the Robert Altman movies that would kind of ape the style later on. And Howard Hawks, yes, it was produced by Howard Hawks and produced by, yeah, he's one of the producers on it, so it definitely has that kind of level of just everyday kind of talking and characters. There's kind of an everyday wit to it, the way it's delivered and all that. But it is a very talkative film, and the few moments of horrors and scares, while very effective, can definitely disappoint audiences who are more used to the more insane monster stuff from the 80s film. And it's funny too, because now rewatching the movie with a new light, it's like it's one of those films that a lot of people have always kind of said was very anti-science, with all the scientists in the movie being so-called villains who want to preserve the monster, as opposed to the military men who want to destroy it. But it's much more nuanced and subtle than that. It's like, for the most part, everyone, scientists and military men, agree on the base that they have to kind of fight against this terrible creature. It's just one scientist kind of loses a bit, because first off, the discovery of alien life would make anybody giddy. But more to the point, he doesn't sleep, and he's less more of a traitor to the cause, and he is more just not thinking straight under bad conditions. Something that the characters themselves, our heroes, realize towards the end with a very sympathetic treatment of the scientist that you would almost not get into movies later. And I think there's even worse cases of anti-science narratives in old-timey science fiction films. As much as I love Irwin Allen's Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, that movie really gets into, like, whether it was intentional or not, it's like nobody in that show can be a scientist without being horrifically killed at the end of every episode for crimes committed against nature, however minor and unintentional they were. But yeah, that's as far as I'm going to talk about The Thing from Another World. I highly recommend it. Last time I checked, the original 1950s version is on Tubi, free to watch. But with that said, I'm going to read some comments related to it before we get back to talking. Sorry about that if I went a little too long on a rant. Okay, Cody Batch says, I say technically, since they're both based on the book, so it can be seen more as a second adaptation of the said book than an actual direct remake of the 50s movie. That is true, the John Carpenter one does follow the book a little more, although it does take it to much more scarier levels. Kaiju Commander says, I like both films, but I prefer John Carpenter's version because it's scarier and more true to the original book, in that the alien retains the shape-shifting absorbing abilities. I probably already read that. Sorry about that. Anything... Kaiju Commander then follows up. Anything that would hurt a dog must be pure evil. Indeed. And of course, confirmation the original story was called Who Goes There? Cody Batch reconfirms what Kaiju Commander says. And S452 has joined us. Raph doing a live stream while I'm at work. Now that's a new level of chaos. Anywho, just dropped by to say hi and got to leave now. My lunch is almost over. See you stateside. Oh yeah, and S452, I don't know if you're going to be watching this later, but we are doing a stream on Twitch tonight. Night of the really big demons for 1% Weird. And then Goji says, that scene in the 50s movie where some of the scientists open the door and the thing is right there and tries to attack always makes me laugh. Oh yeah, they do a good job amping up the tension whenever the thing is off screen, but he's getting closer and closer to them in their particular different areas of the base. And there is that great scene where it's like, oh, I think he's going to be coming behind this door. Okay, and they open it, and the thing is just there, just waiting for them, ready to bash them. But it's a very effective scene. You have to see it for yourself. So, with that says, I'm going to go get a drink. I really talked there. But Kaiju Commander has another question for you. Do you know how similar or different legendary drow / dark elves are to D&D / modern fantasy draw?
It's one of those your mileage may vary kind of deals. The common thing that I do know that drow still share is that they are indeed a matriarchal society. In D&D's case, they're a matriarchal society, and one of their main deities they worship is the Spider Queen Lolth. And let's see, Pathfinder's variants, I still need to study that part of their sub-ancestry for elves, is the Cavern Elf. They used to have drow, but so as not to cross any issues with Wizards of the Coasts, they kind of walked back and just more or less kept the Cavern Elf sub-ancestry.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. I had to grab a jolt of some kind of liquid. Oh my god. No offense, but do I go... No offense to me, actually. Do I go overboard in some of my talking?
No.
Okay. Yes, we'll just say that. Okay. But yeah, it's like you give these sweet short answers, and I'm like, well, you see the original novel, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
I tend to turn into a human Wikipedia.
Yes. Okay, so let's hold on. Let me see what other things. Okay, this already read that. Cody Batch says I've only really played Win. Okay, he says I only really played one D&D campaign. I liked it, but it also required a lot of commitment over several months. Sort of scared me off from doing any more of that, and it ended up in a campaign failing. Oh my goodness. So
yeah, scheduling is kind of the anathema to tabletop. And also how long a campaign can be. Like if it's a mini campaign, it's good to dip your big toe in, so to speak, or some of the shorter modules. But if it's a homebrew, and you have a long campaign and scheduling starts to kind of conflict, one might either have to step out or at least sit down, everyone communicate with the DM, see if there's a common day they can do, and do it on those days, or kind of schedule it. For example, say I'm in a couple of D&D groups, so I'll use the one I'm in for Thursday nights. Ours is every Thursday, and we have a semi-regular game sometimes on Friday nights. Sometimes we don't. But it's normally every Thursday, but if something were to have come up, chances are one would communicate and potentially be able to talk and maybe think of moving it to a session to bi-weekly rather than weekly, or once every 3 weeks in case the schedule conflicts, and see how that gels. Because like I said, aside from vetting good players and a good DM, because
there's good DMs and there's asshole DMs. Fortunately, I've only had experience with the good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, say for one that was short lived, but that's a story for another time.
Right. He
But
rolled 4 and got exploded by a dragon.
uh, no,
Okay.
it's a whole different story for another time for a whole different campaign.
Okay.
But sometimes your group could gel well, everything could be perfect, and someone's work schedule may change, or someone in your group might have just become a new father or mother,
Mm-hmm.
so would have to obviously prioritize real life over tabletop. And
Yeah.
sometimes that will make a game either go on an indefinite hiatus or uh, end prematurely.
Yes. Real life gets important things in real life can get in the way of fiction and fun. So. Yeah, it's like I wanted to do so much for Halloween, but all I can master is these little mini streams. Although I do appreciate you joining me tonight, Win. It's a lot better than when it's just me talking to the audience. So
Absolutely.
thank you. So, with that, okay. So kind of getting back to the Halloween monster. Oh wait a minute. Cody Batch says, "No, bro. I like it when you go into super talk mode, Raph. It shows that you care about what you're discussing. Care about or obsessed about." Bum bum bum. What was that? Oh, that was the water bottle. Okay. I thought a goblin just took a shot at me, literally. Ah, like when Groucho Marx got hit in the butt in that one movie by a sniper. So because that's how war works. No, getting back to monster archetypes. I'm not going to go into a heavy rant, but I do kind of want to share some of the Halloween monsters I kind of enjoy. Well, first, I really do like the whole Egyptian undead supernatural thing that goes on. I don't know why. The Egyptians have always had such a unique mythology or religion. And I know the only reason that still kind of continues on to this day is because mummy mania, for lack of a better term, was a real big thing in Victorian times. It affected pulp fiction and pulp novels well into the 30s. And of course, Universal's Monsters, The Mummy, kind of solidified that further. But there are tons of mummy stories throughout there. And while I know mummies have kind of gone out of fashion, or at least the living undead, highly inaccurate versions of mummies, I think all sort of Egyptian monsters are really cool. Especially when you go into the world of kaiju and you have Egyptian themed monsters like sphinxes and other creatures go in here and there. And Moon Knight was deeply appreciated. I know the miniseries on Disney Plus is kind of a shadow of the comic books they're based on, but I personally enjoyed the series immensely. And there is a phone distraction. Can't help myself. I can't help the situation, I should say. Okay, 3. Just gonna go 2 more times, hopefully. Do. Raph doing a white. Okay, hold on. I reread that part. Some answers need a good explanation. No harm done, says Gojishay. I agree what Cody says. And then real life's always got to go and spoil our fun. Yeah, but real life is real life. But yeah, I really do love the idea of Egyptian mummies being more like mystical necromancers or undead sorcerers over just simple zombies. Although I know that became really popular in the 50s with some of those terrible mummy sequels from Universal Studios. Thankfully, the Mummy kind of got its groove back with the trilogy of Brendan Fraser movies, or at least the first 2, not counting the third one. Ghosts are interesting, although that's a very nebulous term. And demons, I don't know. Demons are just too fun. I know there's a lot of issues about demons, but it's hard not to find demons appealing. Win, how do you feel about space aliens and Halloween?
Well, I kind of voice a space alien, so I can't really say I'm opposed to them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so yeah, and not only that, but like space aliens, especially like little gray men who go around abducting cows and people, which of course you have voiced.
Lies and slander.
We only abduct those cows for food purposes. We're not going to pay for our own meat at McDonald's. Okay. Real life strikes again. Knows you're having fun right now. Wants you to stop. It says Kaiju Commander with the phone thing. But yeah, it is. It is nice. Kind of always enjoying kind of like modern day folklore revolving around aliens, and now seeing it being kind of a little more accepted in horror fiction and Halloween related fiction. It's like, what is it? The most recent entry in the VHS found footage horror series is called VHS Beyond. Sorry about that, bit of a hiccup. And that one's almost nothing but science fiction and aliens, so that's more cool. And Kaiju Commander says monsters of all shapes and sizes are welcomed on Halloween, aliens included. Indeed. Cody Batch says, I like space aliens. I think they're out of this world. Get it? I like space aliens. I think they're out of this world. Nah.
Oh, the dad jokes. The dad jokes.
There
would inevitably be dad jokes.
Yes, that was a good one, Cody Batch. You win the hard for bad puns tonight. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Let me save my let me save my mummy girl here. All right, mummy girl inks. Okay. I've never given this character a name. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do what this live stream does really well and give some ideas what we should call this mummy woman here. So, and look, everybody, I actually drew a female character that isn't top heavy. Other than the cloak made of feathers and the iron thing here. But, okay, that's a bad joke. I'm sorry. No, that one doesn't deserve a slow cat clap. Oh, my goodness. Lynn, have you seen any mummy movies you like?
I liked the first two Brendan Fraser ones. I can't really say anything about the third one, only because I never got around to watching it. And in terms of the reboot of it, I can't really say because I haven't gotten around to seeing that one, but I haven't really heard anything remotely positive about it.
Yeah, their attempt to bring back the mummy was such a... Oh, God, I haven't seen it myself, but I'm so well aware of the production disaster behind it. It's such a shame, too, because I personally would love to see a mummy movie that actually just takes place in Egyptian time and deals with the full origins of the person who becomes the undead, with maybe the third act showing the character's triumphant return to modern times. But yeah, it really is sad how that kind of just went down the toilet, and for reasons kind of... Because I don't want to be too harsh on people if I don't know the full story, but yeah, from what I understand, when they casted Tom Cruise into the movie, he just kind of took it over and turned into his own thing, kind of totally putting the female mummy in the back seat, so to speak. So yeah, that's really disappointing. So let the mummy be a mummy. I know. Oh God. Okay, I think this is the point where I'm starting to get tired. When do you want to keep going, or do you want to kind of call it quits?
Well, given that you're starting to lose a little steam, it's probably best that we stop for now, so you can regain that steam for your movie tonight.
Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, this is where old man Raffi has to take a nap and go see the movie, do the movie marathon tonight, because yeah, I don't want to be struggling through The Gate and Curse of the Demon. It's funny, I've never seen The Gate, which is a 1987 film about a bunch of teenagers who, through accidental circumstances, opens a gateway to hell in their backyard. And it's one of those 80s safe for kids movies that borderlines on not being safe, which I don't know if that's a product of Reaganomics. It's like, oh, let the little kids get scared. Who cares? I'm Reagan. Watch my head spin. Blah, blah, blah. Another dad joke for you. Or if it was just kind of like terrible tonal shifts, because I know Steven Spielberg could handle the tonal shifts really well with a lot of his fantasy films. You know, Jaws being bizarrely hilarious one moment and terrifying the next. Or something like Poltergeist, which is, contrary to popular belief, is definitely a Tobe Hooper movie. But it definitely has enough. It has enough of that wonderful flair that I think both Steven Spielberg and Tobe Hooper brought to the table, where it can be scary one moment and then kind of whimsical, funny, and everyday life another moment. Um, but yeah, you're right, Win. I think we're going to call this quit very soon. These streams, Dawn has arrived, has always been kind of shorter ones, usually less than 2 hours. But yeah, let me go ahead and read some comments, and if anybody has any final questions, by all means ask. If we do pick a scariest alien for me, says Kaiju Commander. I mean, Goji Shay, sorry about that. He says probably the Xenomorphs from the Alien series. Yeah, it's like even with diminishing returns on those movies, they still, those creatures are still pretty terrifying in their own right. And then Kaiju Commander, of course, has to ruin the morning by saying, "No top-heavy mummies for Halloween? Boo! Who are you, and what have you done with Raph?" To be honest, though, I really got to kind of get away from the more fan servicey nonsense. I was working on a bunch of Monster Girl images, and while they are not risque, they are still, yeah. Double D's and over, so I'm not going to be sharing them. But although I am going to go over some artwork before we call it quits with you, Win, because I kind of want to get your opinion or share some stuff with you. Favorite mummy movie for me, says Goji Shay, is probably the original Boris Karloff one. And then Cody Batch says, I tried to watch the third mummy movie because I like dragons and Jet Li, ... but I couldn't finish it. Big oof. And then Cody Batch further says, Raph, that's a good idea for a mummy movie. Surprised no one else has tried it. Hashtag let the mummy be a mummy. Okay, thank you, Cody Batch. It's good to see you again. And like I said, we're doing a Twitch stream later tonight, so if you can stay up, definitely join us. Kaiju Commander says, I enjoyed the original film with Boris Karloff and some of the Lon Chaney versions with Lon Chaney. Okay. But I also really liked the one with Christopher Lee. Sir Lee was a badass mummy. Oh yeah, the Hammer version of the mummy. That's really introduced the mummy as sort of an unstoppable undead force.
I'll have to watch that one. Also, what'd be fun is to mix it up and add Aztec and Incan mummies.
Thank you. I totally forgot about them. Like, I'm not a fan of the Aztec mummy movies from the 50s. I think they're pretty boring. One of those horror movies where nothing happens for like 90 minutes and then something cool happens at the end. It's like what you have a movie called The Aztec Mummy versus the Robot and the two barely fight. So that's another movie that would be a great remake. Aztec Mummy versus the Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. Like really give it like multiple fights between those two. But yeah, no, the Christopher Lee mummy movies are actually really good. So that might be something we can all watch together in the future. I recommend it. The Gate is fun to flick, at least in my opinion. Yeah, okay. Again, The Gate is a 1980s movie about a bunch of preteen children who accidentally open a gateway to hell. And it has a lot of really good special effects, like really amazing special effects for a low-budget Canadian movie. Including like amazing stop motion with the Demon Lord, who is sort of the final big bad of the movie's third act. Hence why we're putting on the Night of the Really Big Demons. But I've never truly seen The Gate. I've only seen video clips, and I think I had it played in the background once. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to finally watch it and give it a full reaction tonight. Kaiju Commander says, the first Brendan Fraser movie, Mummy, was fun, but its special effects haven't aged well, and the sequels are skippable. Cody Batch says, I was happy to hear from you again, Raph. Win, nice hearing you on the stream for the first time too. Glad to be here listening.
Hey.
Awesome. And in Kaiju Commander says, we've gotten some cool Sentai mummies over the years too, from Maji Ranger, for example. Oh yeah! I don't know the name of the character's original Japanese name, but yeah, in Power Rangers Mystic Force, his name was Imperius. And yeah, he's probably one of the, if not, he is one of the, if not the coolest mummy monster in all of Kaiju-dom. Because he's not only a powerful wizard mummy, who can transform into different sizes, including giant Godzilla size and ridiculously huge Macross Serpentera sizes. But he also just has a wonderfully smarmy personality. And voiced by the New Zealand actor who played the Kung Fu priest from Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, Dead Alive movie or Alive Dead. I forgot what it's called. The one with the super zombies. Um, and then Goji says the kaiju genre we've got in Mummy Handler of Dodongo in the first Ultraman show. Oh yeah, plus a bunch of other giant mummies in that series. So I know that Ultraman Dyna had a really cool alien mummy that was might end up playing that episode tonight if I feel bored. But yeah, with that says so I don't know what to call this mummy character. Any suggestions from you, Win?
Hmm. Some Ultraman episodes peppered in wouldn't be too bad of an idea.
Okay. Oh yeah, maybe we'll just do like Egyptian monster movie night or something. Egyptian kaiju night, where we just watch all the episodes of Power Rangers and Ultraman with Egyptian style monsters in them. So that'd be interesting.
Like King Sphinx slash Dora Sphinx.
Yes, yes. He is so much fun in his original Japanese version.
I
So
know. I watched that episode. It's like, that was actually kind of fun.
yeah, it's like some Super Sentai villains are so fun you wish they'd come back more. So okay, so our little mummy woman here will remain nameless, although I think she's a fairly benevolent character, all things considering. So I'll close that up, and let me like bring up some recent pictures I wanted to share with you. Apologies if you see anything you're not supposed to see. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. This is something I do want to share with Win. Okay, and then let's find something else. Some of these I have not posted yet, so this is sort of a preview for a lot of people.
Wow, that's really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about that character in a little bit. But hold on. Oh, where's Oh, okay. Somebody's missing. Okay. And one more, if I can find it. Hold on. That is so weird. Okay, hold on. I'm missing some people here. Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. So yeah, before we end the night, I do want to share some pictures with Win. Okay, so since you like fantasy, let's check this out. So that was my terrible Krusty the Clown impression. So, before we continue, let me read these final comments. Kaiju Commander, I'm not an expert on ancient Egyptian women names, but since your lady is wearing feathers, how about Nekabet or Nekabet? She was a Egyptian. Yeah, she was an Egyptian vulture goddess. Hey, Kaiju Commander, I think you won this one. Nice.
Yeah, we got a winner.
Yes,
right off the bat.
Indeed. Yeah, maybe we'll go stupid and call her Nelly Nekabet. Okay, if you can call a ghost girl, what was it? That was a really good take on the name, Poultry Petrageist, from your Monster Prom.
Oh, Polygeist.
Polygeist, yeah, another one worthy of the slow pun clap. Yeah, Polygeist, but no, Nekabet. Yeah, I like that. Nekabet. Yeah, I'm probably saying it wrong. Kaiju Mander says Egyptian Toku Monster Night sounds fun. Oh yes, we can do that any night. And then Cody Batch says, watch, all these so-called Egyptian monsters and villains will end up not walking like an Egyptian. Okay, we'll skip that one. Kaiju Commander, the purple villain design is very menacing and stylish. Yes, so yeah, let me go ahead and share some artwork with you. So I wanted to revisit my Nira ideas, and this is a fantasy species I created called the Slicksters, or the Side Beings. And they are basically rogue homunculuses born from plants, as rubber tree plants particularly. So they're technically rubber plants. But yeah, they sort of serve as the highly intelligent putty patrol of my Nira stories. And yeah, this is basically a Slickster's basic design with the kind of wooden armor, gold highlights, and the weird cloth-like costume body. And they wear masks because their faces, not because their faces are disturbing looking, which I hope they are, but because that's sort of the weakest point of their body. Their faces are very fragile, so they have to wear the masks just for basic protection's sake. But yeah, as sort of fantasy henchmen, and very much like the Putty Patrollers, they have very limited speech abilities, but I think they make up for it with teamwork and above average combat skills. But what do you think about this design, Win?
I love it. It's really, really clever. I love the details put into the mask, and The face is actually kind of adorable in a derpy way. It kind of reminds me of a character. It kind of reminds me of one of the masks out of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask.
Oh, nice. The comparison to Zelda art design I will take as a great compliment. Thank you very much, Win. So,
But doubly so, given that came out freshly from your own noggin. I love that. It's really, really peak design.
thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm really happy with the way the Slickster came out. So, and I need to do more sketch drawings like this for not just my Nira characters, but just fantasy characters in general. Also, remind me before the year's over, I have to finally draw Win the Rogue herself, the red-haired elf. So,
Hell yeah.
yes. So, although if you end up, I will say this: if you end up sketching your goblin character and her Triceratops friends, I want to draw that too.
I've been thinking of trying to brainstorm and draw Oz later.
Yes, Oz and Pickles. Yeah, no, I instantly
Yes.
love that. Yeah, I instantly love that idea for characters. So, okay, now from the fairly impressive to the not so impressive. Now you know about when are you familiar with Pachimon or the Pachimon kaiju from the 70s?
Yeah, you've mentioned them once or twice in past streams, and actually posted a few pictures in some Discord channels.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm currently doing my own art book inspired by Pachimon called Pachishoma. Get it? Huzzah. Yeah. Which is basically an excuse just to reincorporate a bunch of old fan art that I can't publish elsewhere and try to create new characters by just kit bashing different designs together. And so far I have like 65 of these characters done, and I'm going to try to do 3 more before I finish the book off, but it's going to be a big art book with a lot of text explaining who these characters are supposed to be. But this is, I basically took the brontosaur like Gigasaurus from Ultraman Towards the Future with my fan art of the Lobe from Freakazoid, and some photos, both from friends and myself, of the suburban areas outside of Los Angeles to create the Terror Path, Terra path, Terra path. Yeah, okay. A giant telepathic worm who burrows through the ground using mind powers.
Is he voiced by a disembodied David Warner?
Sure. Oh, phooey, I don't want to go here. David Warner's awesome. We got to do a David Warner night too. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, but no, that's the Terra Path. So glad you like the mummy name Raph and win, says Kaiju Commander. All right, that's an awesomely designed character, Raph. Thank you, Cody Batch. Slicksters look and sound awesome. Thank you. Why? What would I do if I won? Hopes. Okay. All right. Okay, so yeah, do you think the character looks a little too weird looking, this Terrapath worm?
Nah, not at all. If anything, it kind of has a unique design to it.
Okay, yeah. Because originally I was going to make him a villain, but I think he's just a regular giant super intelligent worm that just works and lives on Earth. So,
Yeah, you can tell he's kind of done with the world. He has that, you know what, fuck it kind of face on him.
it's funny you should mention that. Now that you said it, I can't unsee it. It does look like he's not happy getting his picture taken in the morning. Hey, you cameraman. Yeah.
He hasn't had his giant water tower bucket of coffee yet.
That's where he's going. So, okay. This is probably a very pathetically lazy Pachimon style reworking of 1984 Godzilla into Bovile Bob, which is, I don't know if he's like a cow who's been mutated by aliens into a giant Godzilla style monster, or if he's a yokai cow that's been mutated into a giant Godzilla monster by aliens. But yeah, this is I used public domain images from Upsplash, a really good website that a lot of graphic designers used. I forgot who the original photographer is, but I will credit him in the finished book, or her, for the Niagara Falls. But yeah, this is and not only did I reuse Godzilla 1984, the fan art I did of the character, and I added some bull horns, but I also reused like a giant gorilla artwork I did based on a really terrible 1970s movie called Ape. The title alone shows you the level of care and effort that went into that one. So yeah, and as you can see, there's a little Boo spaceship out there. I don't know if it's really Boo's people that did it. So, but yeah, this is a very lazy one. Bovile Bob. Yeah, Kaiju Commander's laughing. Kaiju Commander says Terrapath looks and sounds fun. Not every monster has to be nightmare fuel or cute for that matter. So, but what do you think of Bovile Bob? I think this definitely is one of my weaker ones.
I like the design.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, it feels like one of those like the Ultraman monster they had to make just to fill in the episode order. So, okay, get one of our Godzilla suits and just color them blue. Okay, so and finally, okay, this is a weird one. Kitty
I like that.
Robo L. Oh God, she has a weird name. Kittybot AL1CE.
Kittybot Alice, at
Yes.
your service.
Yes. Yeah, so this okay, so I did a fan art of Hello Kitty, but I tried making her realistic, like if she was an anthropomorphic real life kitty on and I don't know why. I had fun doing like a kind of a fun. It wasn't meant to be disturbing, it was just meant to be kind of a fun take on a simplistic looking character. But it never really worked out. So for the Pachimon book, I changed her colors, made her more of a calico. I think is this what you call a calico? Or when there's just black and white?
Uh, let's see. Calicos are primarily white fur with black and kind of tannish orange patches here and there because
Mm-hmm.
Zelda's a calico. But if she's black and white, just black and white, it's a tuxedo. If it's kind of blackish white, primarily mostly black with orange spots and some white spots,
Okay,
that
then
is a tortie.
yes, okay, then she's definitely a tuxedo because she's mostly a black cat with little white tips. And this is and that color decision was inspired by our newest cat we just have in the back of the house, a stray name. We call him Pepe Le Pew because he looks like a skunk. But yeah, he just wandered in and now he kind of unofficially lives with us. Like he sleeps in the backyard, but he's not as sociable. He's very feral. But he gets along with the other cats fairly well. But yeah, no, I took the Hello Kitty design and I combined it with the robot monster, which is that you've seen the robot monster, everybody. It's that infamous 1950s character that is just a gorilla suit with a diver's helmet, and they called it a robot from outer space. So yeah, I combined that to create Kitty Robo, a giant robot kitten, little girl who's a fairly peaceful character, but because her people are so long lived and ancient, she basically is stuck as a child for the next 100 years. But sadly, like she got left behind at a picnic during a cosmic road trip with her parents, and hopefully her parents will come back for her. But until then, she's living on Earth as a benevolent kaiju. So nobody. Okay, so it's a weird idea. But what do you think of Kitty Robo Alice? Oh, okay. Win may have left us. Hold on. All right, until Win comes back. If she comes back, that's no problem. Okay. But yeah, that's Kitty Robo right here. And let me go ahead and read the comments until then. Okay, Kaiju Commander says. Okay, I already read that. And then Kaiju Commander says, Bovile Bob laughs. And then Goji says, Oh, ape. I know that movie. And then Kaiju Commander says, That's probably the most Pachimon Pachi Shoma monster I've ever seen so far. Oh, probably talking about the giant Bovile Bob. Yeah, I used to have a calico cat. She was black and white with brown fur spots, says Goji Shay. And then Kaiju Commander says Kittybot is funny, and I dig the idea of a monster version of Hello Kitty mascot. It's like a monster cat dressed as a little girl rather than the other way around. And then Cody Batch says Roman. Yes, I might have a picture of the Roman just as reference sake. So hold on, let me go and find it because I always have like some kind of monster artwork here. Oh, robot. Do. I got tons of robots. Over 200 images. Okay, maybe we won't try to find a robot monster. Do. Oh, that's so funny. I don't have any pictures of the robot monster. Okay. Got tons of pictures of other characters. This is the boring part, folks. Okay, no robot monster pictures. Okay. And just one more check. Just going to see if there's any other artwork I wanted to share before we called it quits. Oh, that's a terrible... Oh, wait. Yeah, when Win comes back, this might be something interesting to share. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, I think we're good. Alright, so yeah, this is just a really dumb sketch I did recently. I was trying to draw Boo's parents. So that's the father in the square hat, and that's the mother in the more traditional giant Pope alien hat. But yeah, that's Boo's parents right there. I'll try to come up with their names and personalities later, so. Okay. So yeah, I think Win has left us. Oh no, she's probably dealing with real life stuff right now. So, but yeah, let me go ahead and read some final questions before we call it a night. Boom, boom, boom. Before we call it a day. Oh, hi, Win.
You're good.
Okay, all right. Just one last question. Some questions for you, Win, before we call it a day.
Sure.
Yes. What do you think of Kittybot Alice?
Honestly, I really like the design. It's pretty creative. It's cute.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too menacing, but at the same time, definitely on the creative spectrum.
It's like, ship me. I am cute. Give me giant food tubes, or I will pee on your car.
You are my new friend, little human. Oh, I hate to say it. This is my brother Gabe. You've talked to him recently. I haven't
Gabriel, you are now bearer of the title, giver of gushy food.
I demand to be fed, human. That's my other brother Miguel down there, who just looks angry for the sake of looking angry. So, all right. So yeah, and this is my own personal picture of a local park, Jane Addams Park, which is sort of somewhere in Lawndale. So, but yeah, it's meant to be a little friendlier. So, yeah, this is gonna be a fun character revisit in the future. So, and I don't know if I tried sketching what Boo's parents would look like, but I think their designs need a little more refining.
Hey, take all the time you need.
Yes, but no, this is Boo's mom and this is Boo's dad. So, okay, so although I like that little improv gag you made about the fact that Boo is part Martian, so maybe I'll make one of the parents like a full-on Martian, which isn't a big deal. It just looks like a green version of a gray alien. Okay, so yeah, but with that says, let me read these final comments and we'll call it a night. Damn it! Oh my goodness. What time of day it is? Okay, and I'm not gonna play any kind of music on the way out. Unless you want me to play a short music video, Win.
It's up to you.
Okay then. Yeah, let me find something on one of my wacky playlists. Okay, but Win, do you want to plug anything before we call it quits?
Nothing that comes off of the top of my head at the moment. But if something does in the near future, I will definitely tell people where to go.
Okay, awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I'm doing a stream tonight on Twitch, Night of the Really Big Demons from 1% Weird. The show starts at 9 o'clock California time, roughly 11 o'clock where Win is. Although, like I said, if Win is up for it, and we might do something early, but other than that, just consider a late show, which is me and Lydia and maybe Brayton. Oh, okay. Might as well end it with this song, since we've been talking about goblins lately. And this is one of those YouTube music videos I don't think I'm going to get a copyright strike on, so I'll be okay with playing this. Boom, boom, boom. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, that's basically it. I know me and Brayton are probably going to do something on Halloween Eve, though I don't know if we're going to be able to bring any guests on that one. But yeah, with that said, though, I think we'll call it quits. Let me go ahead and stop sharing some of these things here. Bum, bum, bum. Sorry about that. Yeah, the energy is starting to lose. Okay, and let me go ahead and just kind of put this image on the screen so everyone knows what's going on. This is a song from a band called Max Mule. Mux Mule. It's Muxmool. And it's a sort of techno remix of the Goblin Town song from the 1970s Hobbit. It sounds about right. But yeah, and then let me go ahead and put in the little thank you screen at the bottom. Okay, yeah. So we're going to call it quits as far as today's stream. Let me read the final comments because I'm terrible at multitasking. The kitty bot is funny, says Kaiju Commander. I dig the idea of a monster. Oh, right, already read that. I have a Roman Hops toy figure using a Halloween decoration this year, says Kaiju Commander. I wonder who may get to voice Boo's parents. Who do you think? Kaiju Commander says, Boo's parents? Eek and Ah? Is that their name, Kaiju Commander? Okay, that's adorable. Cody Batch says, Kittybot is Cody approved. That purple dude with the mask is still my favorite of the batch you shared here. But of all of them, they still look like fun creatures, Raph. Thank you. And then Kaiju Commander says, nice hearing from you both. Hopefully we'll be able to catch the show later. I'd be down for the beginning earlier since it would be later in the evening for me. Okay. Goji says, Raph needs to recharge. Laughs out loud. Take care and stay awesome. Raph and win, says Cody Batch. And Goji says to see you all tonight. Raph must enter in Shoma sleep, says Kaiju Commander. Recharge his Kaijin powers. So, okay. So, Win, thank you so much for joining me. I'll try to get you after the show, but if you want to leave during the music, I'll understand as well.
Yeah, I should probably take a little nap myself. I woke up a lot earlier than I planned.
Okay, that's okay. But no, Win, thank you so much for joining me. It made this stream a lot more fun with your presence.
No problem. I enjoyed it.
Okay, so yeah, well, I'll talk to you later. Okay, so Goodbye. So I leave you with Goblin Town, and that's pretty much it. So, yeah, good night, everybody. I mean, damn it, good day.
Goblins laugh and goblins bleat, banner, jammer, whip,